Hello, and welcome to Join Our Town. I'm your host, Reggie Bullock, and we all understand the need to grow businesses in our economy. Well, today's guest, Mr. Aubrey Fenton, is going to help us get a little bit more information about growing our businesses and how that actually affects our environment. So, Mr. Aubrey, welcome.
Thank you so much, Reg.
Now, your job title, or former job title, I should say,
Right.
in New Jersey is what?
Is Burlington County Freeholder Director.
Okay. Now, what is that?
In Burlington County, we have 21 counties, and each county has, in Burlington County, we had somewhere around 450,000 residents.
Okay.
It included the military bases, it included 40 municipalities, 40 towns, cities, boroughs, villages.
Okay.
And as a county freeholder, you have to oversee that county at large.
Okay.
So it's any issue that can come to you, you're working with every municipality on a host of issues.
Okay. Now, Burlington County,
Yes.
it's a unique county.
Absolutely.
So what are some of the highlights in Burlington?
Well, I've always thought Burlington County, it doesn't matter who you are in New Jersey, you have someone in Burlington County. If you're from the farmlands and a diehard farmer, there's a huge agricultural belt.
Okay.
If you're a person who's from an urban community, we have all of our cities just as well. If you're a person and you're deeply suburban, and it's whether it's business or lawyers or attorneys, engineers, we have all of our white-collar offices as well. And
Okay.
we have a very strong military presence, whether it's former veterans and the like. We have that in Bordentown and the areas surrounding the bases. So it doesn't matter the type of person or the demographic, we have a strong presence.
Now, are there any environmental type of issues that exist?
Well, you know, in today's time, it doesn't matter where you live, there's going to be an environmental issue.
Sure.
With the Department of Environmental Protection and the United States EPA, the amount of environmentally sensitive areas are extreme. So
Okay.
we have our share.
Okay. Now, are there any hot spots, and how does a city determine that it's an actual hot spot?
Well, you know, a hotspot is a term that I'm becoming more and more familiar with. I'm not an environmental engineer, but I can tell you from an engineering perspective, the DEP and the EPA has what they call protocols, where they will monitor certain levels of different chemicals. And if a chemical, whether it's cyanide or chromium, is too high in water for a residential area or a commercial area, they will deem it as a hot spot.
Okay.
An area where they say that former business, there needs to be some level of remediation to clean it up before a succeeding use comes there.
Wow.
So if it may have been good 40 years ago,
Right.
but to meet today's times of clean building of health, we don't want that site to be used for residential, for a daycare, or even for a business.
Okay.
So when something has been categorized as a hotspot, it usually means you have to go and remediate that site,
Sure.
do something to clean it up before you use it again.
So how does county environment or business areas, like how do they continue to prosper and grow if there's any restrictions like that in place?
That's an excellent question. I think the first thing you have to do is you have to stay educated. What are those protocols? Now, the best of us, we won't know that if you're operating a business. So you should have an environmental engineer or firm who your business is continually working with.
Okay.
It is even more critical if you're going to buy land.
Right.
So if you're looking to buy a business, buy an auto dealer shop, buy a facility for a private office, you should do a full gamut of environmental tests on that property
Sure.
before purchasing it, just to make sure that it's not environmentally sensitive.
Okay. Now, are there any initiatives in place to kind of help those who are interested in buying in that area?
Yes, there actually are. In the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, there are times where they offer grants where they'll allow you to do phase 1 and phase 2 tests. When you have county-wide redevelopment initiatives, like right along the river route, you actually have certain grants that they'll allow for certain tests or funds, seed monies, just so that you can do that, make sure that land is safe before you purchase it.
Okay.
So a person should seek all those sources,
Sure.
Make sure that they do all their studies, get a good firm to do it, so that you know in your mind before purchasing it that this is a clean and safe place to purchase.
Okay. Now, let's switching gears a little bit. What's a redevelopment zone?
A redevelopment zone is any parcel or area within a town or a city that has, it's what they call blighted. You know, it's been run down. It looks like it's been condemned. Maybe there was the former business owners left.
Okay.
Now people see rundown buildings, and everyone's saying, what's going to happen on that section of my community? Well, you have redevelopment zones that came out of redevelopment laws that allow your township body to then declare that area in need of redevelopment.
Okay.
Saying, we want to make this area great again. again. We want to make it bustling with businesses again. We want to have mixed uses again. And once they pass that ordinance that allows it to be declared a redevelopment zone, it allows certain sources of funds that are offered by the state to be used for initiatives within that zone.
Okay.
And it also allows the governing bodies to help assemble land.
Right.
If it's owned by different entities and they vacated, then it allows that community to now buy that land so that they can sell it to a developer or a redeveloper just to get it going again.
Sure.
So it's really a legislative and a legal step that allows a governing body to allow a section within their community to start bustling again.
So with that being said, and with all that being said, how does the county or those involved, how do they attract new businesses and new retails or whatever? How do they attract new businesses in?
Well, that is the number one question. And certain counties, certain cities have been proven to be good at it. In my opinion, number one, your governing body, it has to be a passion of theirs.
Okay.
And saying, we want to see new business here. Never underestimate the power of just being your number one advocate, of being the biggest cheerleader. We have a great city. We're open for business. If you have a dream of a new business, we want you in our town. So that's one thing. The second thing is by taking advantage of redevelopment zones, of taking care of these ordinances that allow that governing body to participate with funding and financing, allowing business owners to move into that community and maybe not have to put out as much cash outlay as in another community. These are things that will economically induce a business owner to actually to move into town.
Okay.
But the third is, you have to take good care of the businesses that are there.
Sure.
And if your legislative environment is one where if your business owner wants to expand his shop, but it's 10 years in front of a board, they're going to say, I don't want to expand. I want to leave. And the town that says, come on in, they're going to do better. So you want to take good care of the businesses that are there.
Okay. Now, I'm an entrepreneur. So which agency should I talk to when I'm thinking about coming on over to your side?
Well, I would recommend that you automatically reach out, if it's in Burlington County, to the Economic Development and the River Route Program. That's actually a division now that works out of our Bridge Commission.
Okay.
And the reason why is they are in tune with a lot of funding and financing programs available to the state.
Okay.
It's not like the days where you had to go into your pocket, take out 100% of everything you'll need for your business. Now there's grants and there's programs and there's areas in your community where your financing costs can be less.
Okay.
You can use those grants in participation with business loans so that your capital outlay is less. And the best way to do that is you have to put yourself at the foyer of information. What programs are available in Burlington City? What programs are available in Burlington Township? And those individuals will know that.
Okay. Now, switching gears a little bit, traffic engineering.
Yes.
How does that work and what does all that involve?
Well, traffic engineering, the old maxim in real estate was it's location, location, location.
Sure.
If a good business wants good traffic, you want to see people driving by there every day. So making sure that you have a good traffic circulation, a safe traffic circulation, and a steady one is important. And traffic engineering it's the science of counting the vehicles, knowing their movements, knowing when they're coming, when they're going, making sure that it's safe. And a good business, if you have a handle on that information, it sets the stage for your patronage. Okay. It also allows for your community to be environmentally safe. One community that I'm delighted to see is like Burlington City. It's home to the Bristol Bridge. People from Pennsylvania to New Jersey every day going back and forth. So they're doing a lot of things right around that Bristol Bridge to let that traffic work towards redevelopment sites, like the Commerce Square site. And as they perfect those traffic circulations, business owners will naturally want to use those sites as a place to make for their business. Okay. Now, you just talked about how traffic engineering can kind of help those businesses. Right. But what about the residents? Like, if I'm living in that area, that's right, I don't want a whole bunch of cars coming up and down. So how does that actually help or affect the actual residents? Well, that's a great question. When you do a traffic engineering study, sometimes it's part of what they call a traffic impact statement. And it takes into account not just the circulation of vehicles, but the uses of the land. So if you have a group of homes, you don't want a highway right in front of your house.
Exactly.
So that becomes what they call a negative traffic impact. So how do you address that impact? Well, there's different ways you want to route your traffic going a different pattern. In some cases, they put walls to keep the level of the noise down. Or in certain cases, like what they did in Burlington City, is they said, let's just put a light rail system, or what some states call a trolley system.
Trolleys, okay.
So it's not more roads, it's not more cars. You can still get the same circulation, but put the stations in strategic spots.
Okay.
So you can do it using mass transit.
Okay.
So traffic engineering, it takes you through that entire fact-finding process. So you find out the best and most effective means, and then it leads to recommendations.
Okay. So we talked about the business side of it.
That's right.
We talked about the resident side of it.
That's right.
But what about the environment? Like, how does traffic engineering affect the environment?
Well, if you have, think of traffic engineering when it's not working.
Okay.
When you have backed up traffic,
Sure.
What happens to the pollution? When you have backed up traffic or unsafe movements, how does it impact your pedestrian safety? If it's near a school system or if it's near a walkway. So when you really look from traffic engineering from an environmental and a safety standpoint, those two things always go hand in hand.
Okay. So has the city been proactive or reactive in terms of developing initiatives to kind of support that?
Well, I think today, it's so challenging running any city. When I look at Burlington City, it's a historic city. It was home to some of the biggest industrial, it had whole industrial centers where different items were made that reached the world.
Wow.
You had High Street that had all those rich traditional businesses.
Right.
So if you're in office today or you're in government today, you're dealing with everything from the past and you're dealing with everything that you want to see in the years to come. So in some ways, you have to react.
Okay.
I have to react to those businesses that left. And I think the city's done a pretty good job in reacting. And you have to be proactive. Well, what do we want to see in the future? What can we do today that lays down a foundation, whether it's traffic, whether it's establishment of redevelopment zones, whether it's participating in environmental cleanups? What can we do for the future? And I think the city's done a good job in doing both.
So talk about the potential that the city has then.
Yes.
What potential lays out there?
Well, I think that some key areas of the cities you have, Burlington City has an amazing waterfront district.
Okay.
Right along the Delaware River. Right at the other side is Pennsylvania. You have Burlington Island, 300 acres of undisturbed island right in the middle of the water that can be used, whether it's for parkland or some recreational type of business.
Okay.
So I think when you look along that waterfront, the questions to ask are, how can this waterfront be used to attract businesses, attract residences in a way that's environmentally safe?
Okay.
I think there's a great opportunity there. When you look along Route 130, what's called the River Route, for what's the best way to attract businesses to the areas where there's existing traffic. There's certain parcels like the Burlington Mart that's right now being poised for redevelopment. How can that site now be repurposed and reused to attract businesses?
Okay.
So I think those are things that are on the horizon that present themselves as opportunities.
Okay. And right now, you're just helping someone's future campaign right there. They're going to grab a lot of that information.
I hope so. I hope so. And the great thing about Burlington City, Burlington County, is there's some great minds. It doesn't matter what party they are, that are coming into the industry.
Okay.
So with all these ideas, they have ideas of their own, and I think great things are happening.
Well, we have less than a minute left.
Yes.
So where can people go for additional information?
Well, I direct them to two places. One, Burlington City's website, where they can speak to Mayor Joe Fazzone and his staff, and also to the county's economic development and regional planning website. They can speak to Mark Remza. He can tell them about all the initiatives.
Okay. Well, again, I appreciate you coming in and sharing the information with our viewers.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, once again, this has been an exciting episode of Joy in Our Town. I'm your host, Reggie Bullock. Till next time, take care. Hello and good day. Welcome to Joy in Our Town. I'm your host, Reggie Bullock. Now, workforce development, that's a term that we often hear about, but what exactly is it? Well, today's guest is going to help us learn a little bit more about that. So I'd like to welcome Mr. Jason Greenaway.
Well, thanks for having me, Reggie. I think this is about my third time on the show, and it's always good to see you.
Yeah, likewise.
Yes.
So you're representing an organization named?
It's actually Oasis Center for Hope.
Okay.
And Oasis Center for Hope, what we do is provide professional services for individuals and organizations. The best way to describe it is we help organizations accomplish the goals.
Okay.
We get them from point A to point C. There's the point B in between where they get stuck a little bit sometimes, and that's where we work together to help them.
Okay.
And workforce development is one of the areas that we help them in.
So give a quick definition of what workforce development is.
Workforce development is simply the development of your workforce by continuing education, improving their skills, but through whether it be a non-degree or degree-oriented program where the employees are developed and they continue to grow in that skill set that they currently work in, or even other interests they may have.
How does that benefit an actual organization to invest or reinvest into an employee's education?
Well, I would say it lets the employee know that I'm valued.
Okay.
But most importantly, it improves their skills. It helps to further develop them in areas that they may fall short, and I refer to that as a deficiency, areas that they can improve upon. It helps to hone their skills. And the benefit of the employer is you have an employee that is more accomplished who can now increase their work productivity, but now is going to tell their family, friends, you know what, it's great to work for that employer because they value learning and they invest in their employees.
So traditionally, what are some of the educational options a company might provide to its employees?
They're the college university. There are continuing education and courses that you could take at your local community college. There's apprenticeships. There's what we refer to as the job enlargement, and job enrichment, job. There are various ones that they can have, but those are examples, yeah.
And for the most part, do they offer tuition reimbursement? And what is tuition reimbursement?
Tuition reimbursement is offered. Most companies do offer tuition reimbursement, and typically it's companies who, once again, I would refer to them as a learning organization. And a learning organization is an organization that believes that, we should not stay stagnant. Let's learn the latest trends, things that are happening, stay abreast of the latest inventions and things that are in that specific discipline or field. But tuition reimbursement is where the employee goes back to school to continue their education, and the employer says, okay, if you study in a specific area related to your current job, we will give you, we'll pay for it. We will give you money to cover that. And usually they expect that you get at least minimum of a B. If you get less than a B, well, you're kind of on your own there. But some, they work with you.
So if I'm working at company A, and my job is a marketing specialist, I have to go back for education within the marketing field. I can't go back and get a chemistry degree or something.
That usually is the case. But there are some exceptions to that rule where some companies will allow that employee to delve into another area of interest or field of expertise. And the reason is there may be opportunities within for that employee. Let's say if it's a pharmaceutical company. And that person wants to try something different. So they go back to school and they study chemistry or whatever it may be. And because there are opportunities within that company for promotion or for advancement. So that person may say, you know what, I'm going to go into that field. So they speak to their supervisor, they fill out the application at that university, and they fill out internally that application as well. And based upon their policy, they can do that. But it depends on the company, though.
So let me get your personal opinion.
Sure.
You just talked about some of the benefits of why a company will provide these type of educational programs and benefits to its employees. But why would a company that's out there not even consider doing that for their employees? Well,
I would say, not placing any blame or judging that company, but financially, some companies may not have the resources to invest in that, or it even could be possible that they may not value that. They may think, well, if I pour those resources into that employee, then they may, grow and develop, and they may leave me. But an employer of choice, and I'm going to put it out there, an employer of choice would not do that. They don't think that way. They believe in investing. If you invest in the employee, you have a happier employee. That employee recognizes, well, wow, they value me so much to the point that they're willing to develop my skills. They're willing to improve my skills. They're willing to help me to accomplish some goals. So with that improves the employee morale. They work harder, they're willing to go the extra mile, and they will be even more loyal to the company. So for those companies who may be watching this, I would say invest in your employees. It's a win-win situation.
Now, you talked about investing in terms of educational, but are there any other ways that someone can invest in their employees?
Yes, they are. There are other types of programs. And one of them, you could even look at it this way: executive conferences, executive training. It could even be memberships of professional organizations, like the Society for Human Resource Management.
Oh, sure.
Or SHRM. Or it could even be the Association for Fundraising Professionals.
Sure.
Yeah, AFP.
Yeah, AFP.
So investing in by paying for that membership, allowing them to network with other like-minded subject matter experts or even practitioners in that field helps them to grow. Having them go to conferences, having them participate in executive trainings, wellness trainings, diversity training, and things of that nature, leadership training. All it does is expands that person's thought process. It develops them. It grows their skills, especially if they're going to assume a leadership responsibility in their company.
Okay, so in addition to that, before I started my own company, I started thinking about going to a company in New Jersey. I'm not going to say the company's name, but some of the things that was just attractive to the company was on-site daycare. They have fitness programs and other things like that. Are those types of things that you should suggest other companies kind of take a look at as well?
It is. When you're trying to establish your organization, your company as an employer of choice, we would also look at it, and you know about this, Reggie, employment brand. Exactly. And your employer brand speaks of who you are. It means that you are an attractive place. And to be one of the best workplaces where people would consider, you would have to have an on-site daycare.
Right.
You have to have a wellness facility. Those are the things, a cafeteria available. Different things like that says, you know what, we want a healthy employee. We want you to have work-life balance. We want to make sure that you enjoy what you're doing, and there aren't any distractions, there aren't any hiccups or hindrances, that when you come here, you know that you can produce, you know that you can be at peace, and that's what most of those companies look at. Okay,
you said something key there. You said work-life balance. Can you kind of give a definition of that?
Work-life balance, it means time management. That's being able to spend time at work, being productive at work, but realistically, there are some stressors. If you don't have a daycare, available for your child, and you don't have anyone to take care of your child or something like that. If you're a single parent who's working, hardworking person, and you don't have anyone to pick up your child from work, and you struggle with those different types of things, well, if your employer has those types of amenities or those types of things in place, that's one less stress. So now you are an employer, and you have people who are talented, but they're a single parent, and that's a reality. We have a lot of single parents today. Then, you're going to attract some of the brightest minds to your company.
Right.
So work-life balance speaks of, work and your life. These things sometimes overlap, and they sometimes are like at heads.
Sure.
But why have that? When you are an employer of choice, you help to eliminate some of those challenges that parents may, experience from time to time.
Right. So at Oasis, at your organization, what are some of the type of experiences that you may can be able to recall upon when you suggested someone about workforce development, when you suggested them to create this program or to invest in their employees in this way? What are some of those experiences like, or can you give some examples without identifying who they are?
One of the smartest things, for example, let's look at healthcare.
Sure.
Healthcare costs is so it's escalating in our country, and when it comes to healthcare, depending on the participants in your program, the eligible participants of that program, the more employees that you have in your program that get sick or have illnesses or things like that, it increases your health insurance premiums.
Sure.
So what I would encourage, or what I've encouraged employers to do, is to provide those work-life balances, which could also include having someone that they can talk to help them to navigate, to plan. Legal services, your employees may, be driving to work one day, and they may be running late, and they may be speeding, and they get a ticket, so they can speak to legal services, which is a service that employers do provide. So that's one. But getting back to the healthcare aspect,
Sure.
you know, when you provide, you know, different types of healthy options at work in those vending machines, that reduces, you know, a lot of healthcare costs, because now your employees are they're a lot healthier in their eating choices. The selections are different. It also, you know, having a gym or fitness things on site. They can work out.
And you've suggested those types of things to them.
I suggested. Doesn't mean that all of them
they're not all
invest in it. But even doing those things and giving them money back, you know, having special discounts at different gyms or fitness centers.
So if I have a gym membership,
you know, where they could get a discount, partner with a specific gym provider, and helping my employees in that regard. Why do I do that? A healthy employer is not going to call out. A healthy employee is going to show up to work more regularly, more consistently, because when that employee doesn't show up to work, you still have to pay them. We refer to that as sick days. But the more they are able to show up to work, the less your costs will be in giving out money in areas in healthcare and other expenses. So that's one of the values of that. But it also says, I care about your well-being. You're not just another employer A or B, but you're a part of a family-oriented organization, and that's the type of organization, Reggie, that you want to be a part of. Personally, I would want to be a part of that.
And I think anybody would. And your particular clients, they're responsive to that?
They have been responsive to that. Some based upon their budgets. You know, and it all depends on the employer. They may not all use every one of those options or things, but most of them, they look at ones that make sense and that's affordable to their budget.
Now the actual individual employees, because you, like you said, you work with businesses and organizations, but you also work with individuals as well. So